Hey, good morning, Chance. Thanks for joining me. Just going to give it a minute and see who else joins. Morning, Matthew. How you doing? just going to give it a minute or two and let people float on in.
Hey man, yeah. Oh, hey man, yeah. I'm with you. Excellent. We've got Chance on the line as well.
Well, hopefully you don't all come rushing in at once. I don't have that much room left. All right, in all seriousness, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I hope you all are having a great Thursday. My name is Brian Schofield, and the presentation today is called Why Your Current Approach to SEO, SaaS SEO Sucks, and How You Can Fix It. Before I jump in, just a little background on myself and the agency I work for. I am currently the SEO lead at Market 8. Market 8 is a growth optimization agency exclusively for SaaS companies. Our agency is an expert at lead generation, onboarding, user engagement, and user retention as it relates to SaaS. I personally have been practicing SEO for about 5 years now. And that's a combination of, I should say, SEO as well as paid search, of which 100% of my time has been exclusively with agencies trying to solve B2B search marketing related problems. So I've worked with many different business models, but largely B2B focused, as well as search marketing focused. So let's get into the agenda a little bit. Let's take a quick look at what we're going to cover in this presentation. I want to briefly go over the current state of SaaS and SEO. I want to see just what's going on. What are organizations doing right now? What might be working for them and what might not be working. A huge opportunity that most SaaS companies are missing when it comes to their SEO strategy. A framework for capitalizing on this opportunity, and then specific examples of SaaS companies that are crushing their SEO using this framework to capitalize on this opportunity. So today more than ever, I mean, it's no secret that buyers have the majority of control. This is true in most markets now. But specifically in SaaS, I find that SaaS buyers are completing the majority of their purchases before they even engage a vendor, right? That's crazy. Whether it's a third-party source like a directory or an industry blog or a colleague, they're getting the majority of their information, and even pricing, they're getting the majority of that information before they even engage with the sales rep or anyone at the organization. So they're coming equipped. The dynamics have changed too. The buying dynamics have changed quite a bit. And as I mentioned, they're using more and more third-party resources to really facilitate the decision-making. So it puts a lot of emphasis on these third-party resources, whether it's an industry publication, an industry influencer, G2 Crowd, Capterra. They're really utilizing a lot of these resources. And on top of this, there seems to be a pretty substantial gap in the trust between buyers and sellers. It's sellers are perceiving themselves to be seemingly more transparent than they actually are. And this is reported by buyers, as I'll share in the next slide. It's actually a report by Truss Radius. A vendor's website was actually rated as the least trustworthy source. This is a report that surveyed almost 1,000 different professionals who either helped with the buying or helped sell a software. And this is a pretty crazy finding, right? Is that your website is actually one of the least trustworthy resources that a SaaS buyer is going to encounter during their buying process. So it makes me think two things. how can we make your brand and your website more trustworthy to compensate for this? Because I mean, it's not a disposable asset, obviously. And two, how do we take pressure off of your website? Conversely, on the other end of the spectrum, these same buyers rated their own experience, referrals from other folks in the industry, and third-party rankings as being some of the most trustworthy sources during their buying experience. So what does this tell us, right? I mean, clearly the buying experience has evolved. And most of your sales strategies have probably evolved to account for these changes, but what about the search experience as it relates to SaaS? Has that changed? So here's the exact visual from the report from Truss Radius. I think it's very impactful to show what this looks like. I mean, just looking at what do they trust the most? Notice these top three. It's either their experience with the product, a free trial, or signing up for an account, or a referral from a friend, colleague, or peer. Now, what do they not trust? Notice towards the bottom here, lots of marketing stuff, lots of marketing collateral, ebooks, white papers, blogs, and the vendor and product website. So if you think about SEO and where we are today, I mean, the majority of SEO budgets, and specifically content, our content is really being focused around these blogs, different types of white papers, pillar pages, long form pieces of content. These are all sources that buyers have stated they don't trust less. And that's not to say that these sources should be totally discounted and totally just thrown out of our marketing strategy, but how can we approach them differently with this in mind? So again, just to reiterate this point, the SaaS buying experience has clearly evolved over a period of time, but the search experience, which clearly encompasses more than just your SaaS website, has remained stagnant and ultimately has not evolved. This is my next question, right? Why are most of our SEO budgets still being invested in driving tons of crappy, unqualified organic traffic to these same blog posts that prospects and customers say they don't really trust? Again, these are still useful, but how can we approach it differently to account for these findings? Why aren't our strategies evolving to consider these obvious changes in purchasing behavior? And again, don't get me wrong, driving organic traffic is still very, very important, but it is just one piece, as we've seen. So to show what I mean, here's what a typical marketing funnel looks like when you have SEO related actions mapped to it. Toward the top here, we have long form blog content, consideration, you get your webinars, down at evaluation, you're pumping out case studies. These are great, but these are the exact types of content that buyers that really don't trust. So let's look at a different funnel here. This is a SaaS marketing funnel optimized for SEO. And as you see, it's including marketing portion, sales portion, and customer success. What you'll notice is you have these same SEO actions that we saw in the last funnel, but they're mapped entirely different to spread across the entire customer lifecycle. What you'll also notice is you see a lot of third-party resources and other touch points outside of the site to account for other resources that buyers may trust more. So the difference is clear, but one of the other big differences is that although organic user acquisition is still a big priority, user retention is added to the mix. Because remember, when your customers start using your product, they're still searching for help. They're still searching for technical guides. They're still searching for best practices on how to use your product. Don't forget to optimize your website with this in mind. And the reason why this is powerful is pretty simple. Bain and company actually had released a report recently where they noted that Increasing retention by just a mere 5% can increase profits by almost 100%, which is pretty obvious, right? I mean, towards the top of the funnel, higher acquisition costs, higher cost to acquire a customer, whereas down at the bottom of the funnel, through customer success, cost to retain that customer become lower and your profitability increases, where at the top of the funnel, the profitability is lower. And remember, users are still searching after they become a customer. So how can we optimize your website with this in mind? So the question is, how can your SaaS SEO efforts generate new organic customers and retain existing customers at the same time? Because remember, we're already doing all these SEO activities. We're already pumping out content. We're already optimizing your core product pages for on-page SEO. We're already optimizing, or at least I hope your SEO person is already optimizing your information architecture, your website's navigation. We're already doing all this to ideally generate new organic users, right? I mean, that's the goal of organic SEO. But what if we just shifted and pivoted our approach slightly to also include in customer retention as an objective to our SaaS SEO? So how do we do this? That's the question. This approach is actually, it's centered around 4 principles. In our agency, whenever we pick up a new SEO project, anything we do as it relates to that website keeps these 4 principles in mind, specifically for SaaS, right? So number 1 is expecting more from your content strategy. Websites and brands are pumping out content at an enormous scale today. It's so saturated with content out there, and that's great. If you're doing it the right way, it's probably working for you, and that's wonderful. But let's expect more from your content strategy. Let's be more ambitious. And again, let's go beyond the typical user generation, and let's focus on user retention. Number 2 is moving prospects to a demo or free trial quicker. This is absolutely imperative, especially for SaaS businesses that are on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to complexity for their SaaS product, right? You need to get them to a free trial as quickly as possible. I can tell you, the more a prospect hangs out on your website and is just kind of cruising around, looking at different blogs and whatnot, and going from website to website, looking at reviews, the longer that happens, the more time that passes, the less likelihood you have converting that prospect. So it's all about getting them to a free trial or a demo in some cases. Maybe you're an enterprise SaaS, or a demo, and getting them there as quickly as possible. Number 3 is developing more SERP real estate beyond just your website, right? So beyond the obvious high intent searches, how can we dominate the search engine results pages for your brand? How can we show up for more types of searches outside of your website? And then number 4 is decreasing this trust gap between the buyer and seller. And what I'll also allude to is, how do we decrease the same trust gap between the seller and search engines? So number 1 is expecting more from your content strategy. Again, let's be more ambitious here, because we know happy and successful customers mean an increased customer lifetime value. And that is exactly why you'll see smart content strategies educating and creating product experts who ultimately turn into product evangelists and give you referrals, right? So a few ways to do this: developing video content that show how to solve specific problems with your SaaS, creating a help center on your website. These are absolutely critical nowadays for SaaS websites. And remember to optimize it for internal and external search, because your users are still searching for solutions even after they become a customer. And I can tell you, if you're not showing up, if your guides are not showing up to help your customers become product experts, your competition probably has content out there targeting those same searches, and they're only going to be taking market share away from you in terms of brand awareness. And lastly, intertwining your content marketing machine with the software itself. I'll show a really cool example of how you can do this, but really integrating your content marketing into just the greater picture of your software. This is really, really powerful. So let's look at an example of someone who's doing this really well. Ahrefs is a case study for many reasons, but their content marketing strategy is just out of this world. It's something that can be studied for just hours on end. Yes, it generates new users organically, I'm sure of it. But what it also does is it creates those product experts, those product evangelists. They invest a ton in this effort, and they've seen just tremendous dividends from this effort. So in this left-hand screenshot, you'll notice their help center. This is fully optimized for internal and external search. In the middle, they're pumping out consistent YouTube videos. YouTube is a massive search engine now. And on the right-hand side, these are notifications actually for new content directly within their SaaS interface. So they've actually merged and combined their content marketing strategy with their actual technical infrastructure, which is pretty powerful. I think that just goes to show how powerful their content strategy is as it relates to their greater business model. So number 2, moving prospects to a demo or a free trial quicker. So again, for a lot of SaaS companies on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to complexity, this is really, really critical. The longer a prospect is navigating your website or is bouncing from source to source, the less likely they're going to convert into a free trial, period. And beyond conversion rate optimization efforts to really facilitate this, something our agency also does, your SEO efforts that you're hopefully already implementing should help facilitate this in a few ways. And remember, these are not nice to haves in 2020. These are absolutely critical. I can tell you, any SaaS website who's looking to compete in 2020 has to meet these basic requirements, right? You need a simple navigation. You need a smart website structure. When I say simple navigation, I mean a navigation that is aesthetically appealing to users, right? It makes sense to users. It just flows naturally, as well as navigation that makes sense to search engines. It's optimized for SEO. Second point here is ensuring every page is optimized for mobile. And, although Google switched to mobile first indexing, and most people think of just responsiveness when it comes to mobile optimization, but the truth is, your page can still be responsive, but it can still be lacking in a few different areas as it relates to mobile optimization. So think about images, think about how your text is loading on the screen, and so on. Number 3 here is optimizing each page for fast load times. This is absolutely critical as well. Again, if we're talking about SaaS products on the lower end of the complexity spectrum, they need to make decisions quick. You want them to make quick decisions. Therefore, you need your pages to load fast. So look at things like how you can compress images, get the file size down, definitely enable browser caching, and removing and just cleaning up any unnecessary JavaScript. Lastly, making sure each page is fully secure. This is an absolute given in 2020. Search engines reward pages that are secure, websites that are fully secure. This is a really obvious ranking factor. Google wants to send users to websites that are secure. So remember to look for mixed content. So you have HTTP resources on an HTTPS page. This is critical. Here's an example of someone who's doing this really well. This is FreshBooks. This is FreshBooks, and this is a page that is targeting the keyword invoice template. The topic as a whole has 150,000 monthly searches, and this page is really, really good. It is just perfectly serving the user intent. It's doing it really, really well. This is utilizing a pillar cluster model where this page is the pillar page, and it has specific clusters around specific types of invoices. So think about graphic design invoice, attorney invoices. And so those clusters are also capturing all that search traffic, but they're also sending authority back to the pillar page through internal links. It's also just creating a lot of relevance around this topic, right? I mean, there's no wonder they're actually ranking between number 1 and number 2 for this. So there's no wonder they're ranking that highly. They've done a really, really great job here. Number 3, developing some more SERP real estate. This is critical for a lot of SaaS businesses. So think about how you can create a surround sound effect where your brand is just dominating for many different types of search queries. And remember, your website is only going to be able to serve a certain amount of these. You're going to have to look to third-party resources like industry directories, third-party review websites, sometimes industry blogs if you have to make relationships to get on a listicle or something. Generating reviews for third-party websites, that's critical. G2 Crowd and Capterra, that is a given now for most SaaS websites. And they actually will help incentivize your customers by, offering, like $10, $10 gift cards, I believe they do nowadays. Targeting competitor brand keywords and specific landing pages. This is something that we've seen huge returns on. So think about targeting the keyword like Slack alternative, for example, FreshBooks versus QuickBooks, for example. These are keywords that generally will have less competition. You'll be competing with third-party resources, again, like publications or third-party review sites, but generally they have less competition. They're easier to rank for, and they convert at a very, very high rate. I can tell you that with certainty, that our agency has seen very, very high success with that tactic, specifically targeting competitor keywords. And lastly, implement a workflow for targeting featured snippets during your content production process. This is only going to take up more SERP real estate. Featured snippets are becoming more and more prominent for a lot of searches. And if you can just implement a quick workflow into your existing content production process to target them, the returns will be just astronomical in the long run. We've seen just great results targeting featured snippets for our clients. So let's look at an example, right? So this is these are featured snippets that are on third-party websites, and they're actually appearing for very high intent search terms. So again, finance is online. This is huge in the SaaS industry. It's just a matter of submitting your own SaaS product to that website and generating reviews. This is a really high search volume, a search term with high search volume. So this is really influential. And the one on the right, again, which project management software is the best? This is, again, a third-party resource. And this looks like, I think this is an industry blog. So this may require a bit more creativity in terms of how to get on that list. But one way our agency might approach it is finding who's responsible for that article or who's responsible for that website and trying to build a relationship with them either through LinkedIn or Twitter, or just trying to figure out what we can give them, right? Is it a free trial to our software? Are they pumping out content? Can we help them author any more content that they're already producing? And just trying to find a creative angle on how to work our way into this list. This right here is an example of a competitor-based landing page targeting, this is a software client that we work with, and they are targeting Docebo alternative, as well as some other keywords. And you'll notice the actual landing page, it's really good. So we actually went to Capterra and we looked at feedback and complaints that existing customers on the competitor side had to say about the competitor software. And we basically exploited that, right? We turned it around and we included that messaging on the landing page, and we gave customers a reason to choose Raven 360, our client, over the competitor. And we went into really great detail doing this. And I can tell you that this page converts at a very, very high rate. We use this for both paid search and organic search. And again, this converts at a very high rate. Head-to-head comparison of features and benefits. And then down at the bottom, we have a form. And again, these landing pages, they're really not difficult to create, but they have a really, really high conversion rate. So just start by visiting Capterra, G2, or any of these third-party review sites. Search your competition and get some ammunition for the page's copy. It's pretty low barrier to entry to create these. The number 4, decreasing the trust gap. When you think of decreasing the trust gap, yes, a trust gap exists between prospect and vendors, but it's also among vendors and search engines. So your goal here should be to build the trust of both, as each will play off each other. right? So the trust that you build for your website is ultimately going to appeal to search engines, and ideally prospects will be more trustworthy of your website as well. And so the way to do this is to ultimately generate more branded searches. Search engines more than likely consider this as a ranking factor when they're evaluating your website. Remember, search engines are looking at expertise, they're looking at authority, and they're looking at trust at a higher level. And so if you think about how to quantify trust, I would say branded searches are a pretty great way to do that, right? The more people that search for your brand, I think that's an indicator to Google that your brand is probably at least somewhat trustworthy. The other way that search engines might quantify trust, and I know users do this already, but third-party reviews. Google already uses third-party reviews on the paid search side of things. So it's not crazy to think that they wouldn't use third-party reviews to quantify and assess the trustworthiness of a website. So on the left-hand side here, this is an example from FreshBooks. And you'll notice the search term, B2B accounting software. Of course, third party shows up, Finances Online. They're number one here for best accounting software 2020. And you go to a landing page, and this landing page filled with trust seals, right? Verified quality, Finances Online. They've got their third party reviews directly embedded on the web page. They've got their testimonials. What I love most about this page is that it is a specific landing page that corresponds directly with Finances Online, the website it just came from. So they're using specific messaging from Financing Online for Finances Online on the landing page. It's really, really impactful. The other thing is leveraging aggregate rating markup on your sales pages. This is an absolute must. We've seen huge returns in terms of click-through rate and organic search traffic from using this type of schema markup. And it is an absolute must for software businesses. So decreasing the trust gap, let's continue on with this. How do we build trust for your SaaS website? So I know for users, right, you get customer references, trust seals, as we just saw, independent third-party case studies, not just case studies you're pumping out, because remember, that's a source that you're responsible for. Our proof of ROI, how can you prove that your prospects are going to see a return on their investment? And product transparency. So not just being upfront about what your product is good at and good for, but being upfront about what your product has limitations around. And on the other side of things, how can we build trust with search engines? Search engines are going to look at things like your name, address, and phone number consistency across the web. They want to see a contact page. They want to see a customer service contact. They want to see customer service contact information. And they want to make sure that all this information is consistent across the web. That's an indicator of trust. They want to see a privacy policy, right? How are you using data? How are you collecting it and how are you using it? Active social media accounts are an indicator of trust. Fake businesses, fake websites, they don't have social media accounts. So take that into consideration. Search engines are without a doubt looking at this to quantify whether they can trust a brand or a website. Branded searches, this is a given. And branded anchor text, this is huge as well. So branded anchor text coming from external links pointing to your website. And then lastly, consistent website updates. So websites that don't really care about the quality of their content, they don't really care about establishing trust with prospects, they're not going to be consistently updating their website. So this is something that search engines will pay attention to. And so you'll notice in the middle here, the commonality that both users and search engines have for establishing trust with a website or brand is brand trust, right? So how do you develop brand trust? Through third-party reviews. This is the commonality between the two. So to recap this presentation, right? So we've seen that the SaaS buying experience has evolved, but search experience for a lot of SaaS organizations has not really kept up with the pace at which the SaaS buying experience has changed. So the search experience for a lot of organizations has got to change. You can't ignore third-party sources. you can't beat them, you just got to join them. Remember, you're not going to be able to win every search term on your website. You're going to have to go look to other sources to win these websites. It's called parasite SEO, looking at higher authoritative or higher or more relevant websites that you can target those searches on. Having more ambitious goals for your SEO efforts. Remember, let's think about customer retention beyond customer acquisition. We're already doing all these SEO activities, pumping out tons of content, optimizing our sales pages for on-page SEO, building different, courses and all this stuff. And it's time to start shifting our approach and have more ambitious goals. And then lastly, how can we decrease the trust gap between you, your customers, and search engines? So pay attention to those signals that we just talked about. For users, again, references, proof of ROI, transparency in the sales process, search engines, active social media accounts, branded searches, consistent website updates. But the commonality between the two, right? Third-party reviews. If you're not on G2 Crowd, Capterra, GetApp, any of those, I would highly, highly recommend that you shift your SEO strategy to incorporate review generation into it. So that is the presentation. I really appreciate you guys for being here. If you want to continue to learn more about SEO for SaaS, or you just want to chat, or you have a question or comment, feel free to reach out to me. My email is brian@market8.net. My LinkedIn is posted here. And to download slides of the presentation, you can visit the Blaster Facebook group. Thanks, guys.